Hello everyone, how are we doing? So, let's start off with a super simple question.
So what's your name? My name is Corvus, and I was a developer on the SCP Unity game. Alright, fine, I'll shut up.
I'm Aruspice, and my real name is Victor, and I used to be I am a 3D artist, but I used to be a 3D artist specifically for SCP Unity, the game project that's now defunct. And I was an artist there for about 2 years, and eventually I ended up getting fired. But that's neither here nor there. That's all the gist of it. I'm currently working in the games industry, and I guess that's all there is to it, really.
I am Error, otherwise known as Eternal Error, programmer for SCP Unity. Not sure what else to say on that one.
My name is Gracjan, and I am living in Poland right now, and I'm a 3D artist, working professionally for almost a year and a half now, full-time, and before that I was working about a year on freelance.
Yeah, I'm Festive. I was Q&A and testing for SCP Unity in 0.6. I was hired after 0.7 dropped, so I was testing for 0.7 as well. I mostly did patron props afterwards when I was hired as a developer, so most of my content that I've created in the game is in the offices. Some of it was going to be in 0.8, but unfortunately, 0.8 never came to be. I was probably with them for 8 months before they were canceled, before Unity was canceled, so that's the brief.
What was your role in SCP Unity?
I was a 3D artist. I was tasked with making props and fall environments. I was working on an upcoming Never to Happen update 0.8, I think.
My role was basically lead audio designer. Kind of got into it just for making sounds. It was kind of like a contracting sort of thing where I just made sounds that they needed. And it eventually developed into me being very hands-on in engine, making all the audio and implementing it in the game. I was one of the senior developers, and I was responsible for audio.
So how did you get into the studio?
It's a funny thing, I had just dropped out of college and I was kind of aimless in life, I had a job at the time, but I was looking for something to kind of improve my skills. So I went on YouTube and was watching containment breach videos, and it recommended me a video of SCP Unity. I didn't know about it until then. It was a video with a thumbnail that was, I believe, SCP 106 for Unity. And I was like, holy shit, I can't believe they're remastering SCP Containment Breach, because that was one of the games from my childhood. So I decided to go into the Discord, and I talked to Zorner and decided to apply. And a couple weeks later, they decided to let me in. I actually started as an animator, not a 3D artist. That came later. Initially, I animated. I animated the 178 instances, like 178-2, I believe. Eventually, they replaced my animations with some better ones that Chacos made when he joined. But the first iteration of those animations was all me.
I got approached by Jalo. He messaged me on ArtStation, and I was recommended by Aruspice. Honestly, I was very surprised and quite honored that they approached me and asked me to join, so I immediately said yes.
Well, it wasn't really by commission. It was, I got in, that was like around November 2017. I joined the server because the project caught my attention. I was like, maybe I can contribute to this. And at the time in the server, there was a fan contributions channel where people would just send things that they felt, maybe they can add this to the game. Maybe this is helpful to the developers. And that's where I started just sending little bites of things. I think I sent a sound for 914. I think I sent like a piece of music that was just a short cue, like something with the elevators. But basically, I just sent stuff in that channel, and that caught the attention of the people who were at the time the development team. And I think around about a month after I joined the server, I was brought on as a level 5 developer, as the role was known. It was like a minor developer. There was the 05 seniors, and I was a level 5.
I was a patron for about 2 years, since 0.57 came out in 2018, I believe. And I was really involved in the community for a long time. And for 0.6, they required new testers, so I applied for a tester there. And for 0.6, I just did normal testing as a tester along with like 4 or 5 other people. After 0.6, they said, hey, you did a great job, managing and submitting bugs and, finding bugs and put a lot of game time in. So they're like, hey, do you want to be just in charge of testing in general to, get everything organized? I said, sure, yeah, of course. So I did that for about maybe 8-9 months before I became a developer for 8 or 9 months. So I was technically part of the team for about a year and a half.
So that's actually a very interesting story. In the past, I got started coding through mods, first for Fallout and then for SCP Containment Breach. I released a mod called SCP 914 Expansion Mod, and I was in contact with a animator known as Apocryphus, who previously worked on SCP Containment Breach. I think he got picked up from Zorner for SCP Unity, and he apparently put a good word in for me, and he approached me and asked, hey, Zorner's looking for people to help with his SCP Containment Breach in Unity. Would you like to help out? I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a go. The next day, I was pretty much put in the server with Zorner. He asked what I could do. I said anything from Photoshop to code, and then the first thing he had me do was work on UI.
What inspired you to start working on Unity?
Well, I always loved SCP lore and universe, and SCP Unity was and is till we release our game, pretty much the best looking SCP game out there. So it was very honoring to be able to work on that and expand upon that.
I just really liked the game, so I was really excited to play it. I was definitely super enthralled to play the game, even though it was early access. But I liked finding all the mechanics and stuff like that, the hidden mechanics and stuff.
Like I said, Containment Breach was one of the games from my childhood, and I always wanted to be involved in SCP type stuff. I first learned about SCP when I was like 12 years old or something, back in 2009 or something. I'm not sure. The idea is that I just happened to see a thumbnail from, I believe, Battleforge or someone else featuring SCP Unity, and I got interested from then on. I didn't have much to do at the time, so figured why not.
Oh, right, yeah. I had done a couple of things with SCP in the past. I was, as a child, I was really young when I joined the game, and when I was even younger than that, I was really big into SCP, and I watched a lot of playthroughs of Containment Breach. And so I think it was like 2013, 2014. I spent like a couple of weeks just making sounds and a couple of just random bits and bobs for Containment Breach and posting them on the forums there. And then I kind of took a break from SCP for a good few years until 2017. And really what got me to really check it out were videos by a YouTuber who went by Batesy. He is kind of retiring from YouTube right now. But those videos, just seeing how this thing kind of started coming up, that was really interesting, and that kind of is what got me to think I might be able to contribute something to this.
How long did you work on SCP Unity for?
I was onboarded onto the team in, I believe it was either October or November of 2017. This was before the Discord server was even public. It was a very, very small, pretty much unheard of project. I heard of it once before, because there was a runner-up to the project known as SCP Unreal. I was one of the first Big Four. There were the first Big Four, which eventually got the founder's role in the Discord. It was Zorner, Shadowscale, Zakanark, and me. We were basically the first four.
About 2.5 years maybe. So from a very early stage, I believe it was updated like 1.3 until around 1.7 dash something. By the time they got started on 1.8, I was already out of the door.
About half a year, I think.
I worked on it until the very end, January of 2021. So that's, I don't know how many years that is. That's 3.25 years, maybe a bit less. 3.25 years just about does it.
Would you say Unity changed your life in any way?
Absolutely. like I said, when I joined Unity, I was looking for something to kind of sharpen my skills, something outside of my day job and stuff. And I like to tell people that Unity was like a great school. You kind of participate in the project and you learn a lot more than if you were just attending some classes or tutorials or whatever. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be where I am professionally right now if it wasn't for my participation in Unity, so I don't regret it.
Well, the game engine made me want to kill myself, but the game, the game, it most certainly had a huge impact on my life because throughout those 3.5 years, I mean, that's a lot of time. That is a lot of time, especially because I was young when I joined. I mean, I'm still young, but I was younger then. So a lot of that time, it really allowed me to get deep into certain fields of audio design and writing music and really improve my skills in those fields. It gave me a lot of experience on how to work in a team and how to come up with creative ideas in a team and discuss them. And it's also been a thing of I had a job for like a real life job for the whole first year of working on Unity. And then Patreon payouts became a thing where the developers were getting small cuts of the Patreon money. And for the following 2 years, because I didn't need much, I still live at home and I don't go out much. I don't need a lot of money. And so SCP Unity really became a thing that allowed me to just sustain myself with those Patreon payouts. I set up a freelance business and SCP Unity supported me through most of that.
It is where the majority of my programming skills actually come from. It's pretty much the thing that spoke to me that I wanted to be a software engineer. Before, I was actually thinking about being a mechanical engineer. In fact, I was actually pursuing a degree in mechanical engineering before starting in Unity. I started college in 2016, and then in my second year, I was onboarded onto Unity, and then I was like, oh, well, this might actually be something I want to do. I am now a software engineer major.
I was not super into SCP before I joined Unity, but now it's like one of my favorite things. So, and also, I wasn't into any game development beforehand. I started working with 3D stuff because of Unity, because I wanted to become a game developer because of that game.
I've met amazing people there. It helped me with confidence in my work. It was very good experience as an artist to work on that, even though I was thrown into deep water straight away.
Did you think the game would ever get as big as it has?
Absolutely. Like SCP has a very big community, and this was pretty much the best looking SCP game, and gameplay wise it was pretty nice too. So yeah.
Actually, when I first joined, I didn't expect that it would blow up like this at all. I don't think any of us did. Like I said, I joined in 1.3, and Patreon back then was like $200, $300. And then all of a sudden, around 1.6, it was like 5,000 or 6,000. So what ended up happening was, like I said, none of us expected it, so we had a little bit of trouble adapting to this explosion in interest all of a sudden. I think the big game changer was when Markiplier played it around 1.6, I believe.
On the start, no. So I just thought it was going to be this is just going to be a little side project, and the scope was much smaller. The scope was just literally take what containment breach is, move it to Unity.
Honestly, no. I did not. I saw it was developing and it was getting bigger and bigger with every update that they released based on the videos that I'd seen. But I did not join with any thought as to, oh, this is going to be a huge thing.
What are your favorite SCPs in game?
In the game, my favorite SCP is probably 1762 The Dragons. They were really good. 914 is also one of my close seconds. Those are probably my two favorite in the game.
This is great because I saw this on a Google document and I just thought, what the fuck? I don't know. I don't even recall what all was in the game, to be honest. Yeah. What's my favorite SCP in the game? I guess. I mean, I could take a pragmatic approach to it and think about what was my favorite SCP to develop and use that as my answer. I had a heck of a good time writing the music for 131, honestly. 131 was great. because it was something that was really out of what I would normally do, and it was this unique experiment for myself personally, and I think it turned out quite well for just the brief few minutes of music that it is.
Well, my icon is currently 079, so I think that's going to be a good place to say where my favorite SCP is.
Oh God, that's a tough one. I'm gonna speak from the ones I've worked on, and from those, my favorite is 3199, the Chicken Man. Humans Refuted. I always loved the article, so when I got the chance to work on that, I was very excited. Eventually, I made the model. We published some like hype pictures on social media and stuff, and eventually, both the original artist from the picture and the article and the writer came in and said that they really liked the model, and that that just made my day. Seeing those people that I really admire saying that they liked the model I made. We made a short video. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if it still exists, because when the project got shut down, Zorner deleted the entire YouTube catalog. I'm sure someone must have backed it up, but I'd have to ask around.
I love SCP lore, but it's kind of hard to. The old man was pretty scary, just him appearing.
How long did making the game take at first?
I wasn't there that early. Like I said, it was like 1.3, I believe. So they were just starting to replace the original containment breach assets with new ones. They just had replaced 106, if I'm not mistaken. So after that, like I said, it took until like 1.6 to really take off.
So, what sparked your interest in game development?
So I went to college here in Brazil for game design. Game design here is it's a very mixed bag of a course. So you have like programming, you have 3D modeling, you have script writing, a bunch of different subjects. And during half of my college course, I started feeling like I really wanted to do 3D, and I didn't want to do any of the other stuff like programming and script writing, stuff like that. So I decided to just drop out and focus on 3D. After dropping out, I had a job. I was like an intern at an animation company. So what I ended up doing was I just practiced on my free time the 3D, and eventually I found that I didn't have enough motivation to keep going just by myself, so that's why I decided to join a project. My idea was either to join like a mod project, like a Warhammer 40k project or something for a different game, but eventually, like I said, I just stumbled upon Unity and decided to join that.
Since moving to Project Aethon and rebranding your group, do you still have as much freedom with your work as you did before, if not more?
Definitely more, without a doubt.
Oh, yes, 100%. Sadly, the state of Aerie towards the end is you had to become kind of a yes man to Zorner, or else you would kind of not get anything approved. You'd have to work something super secretly. Like Corvus was working on something for our project right now, and he was working on Unity at first super secretly, just so that he can show it off and say, "Hey, look how amazing this is!" So it had a chance to get in. That was the state of the studio at the end.
We have 1 billion times the freedom that we had with SCP Unity, especially compared to SCP Unity in its later stages. It was this sort of moment a couple of weeks after setting everything up that everyone in Project Aethon was like, this is actually very exciting because we get to do our own thing and just kind of choose our direction on it together.
I have even more, because in Unity I was tasked with specific things by our boss, and in Aethon I am co-owner, co-producer. I mostly take care of visual side of things, but people are very, very happy to listen to me and think about my ideas and my input, so...
This question would probably be more appropriate to Error, since he's kind of organizing the entire thing. My experience so far is we have a lot more freedom, basically do whatever I want as far as how I want to tackle things in the project. I can set my own priorities. However, my level of commitment with Aethon isn't as big as Unity, because in Unity I had a job, but it was part-time at best, so I had a lot more free time to dedicate to it. Now I have a job and I have a couple other side projects going on, so I still work with Aethon. I still provide them with a lot of 3D models, but a lot less than I did in the Unity days. Like I told Minirow a couple days ago on direct messages that I made I must have made like hundreds of models for Unity. Meanwhile, for Aethon, it must be like dozens at best.
Do you have any plans for Project Aethon to expand to other genres in the future?
If we have time and money, if we are able to sell games or earn Patreon, maybe, I would love to.
It really depends on like how our projects go. We are for 100% sure wanting to stick to SCP for the foreseeable future to build up like a studio name so that like people can actually get excited about something we work on. And then there might be a point where we're like, okay, the Creative Commons license is kind of screwing us. Maybe we can come up with our own IP. That has been discussed with no real plans to capitalize on that at any specific point. But it has been talked about.
It was a thing that was thrown around in the early weeks. That where people said maybe we can do something that's not SCP, but we came to a decision that it makes more sense for us to do something that has to do with SCP first, because it's something that a lot of people are interested in. Basically, yeah, it's something that a lot of people from the community are interested in. And if we said, okay, we are the same development team, but now we're going to be making a golfing game, everyone would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, by other genres, I don't know again how much I can reveal about the first game. We're kind of trying to keep a secret till our ARG is solved. Yeah, since we can choose different SCPs, it's not like a facility design, right? We can choose more SCPs that explore more exploration instead of horror, or fantasy instead of. So we're totally free to new genres as well.
Yeah, I can talk a bit about that. So right now we're working on, we're not planning on doing any kind of revival of Unity because we think that's like a very long-term goal. Right now we want to kind of prove that we can, first of all, get the team off the ground. We're working on a small project just to kind of test ourselves. It's based on a single SCP. I don't think I can reveal that just yet because the team's working on a big teaser soon for that, like a big video. So the entire game will be focused around a single SCP, and that's just kind of test the team and see if it all works together. If it does, then we have a lot of plans to do more projects in the future, both SCP and maybe not even non-SCP stuff. I think we all have like this interest in horror games, so we'll probably keep around this area, but we may at some point decide to do non-SCP stuff. It's not really set in stone as it is. Once we get this first game out, we'll see how we feel about it. If the team works well together, if our ideas are kind of aligned, maybe things need to change structure-wise, maybe we need to restructure the team. That's the kind of stuff we're going to find out as we release this first project.
Did you have much experience with Unity starting off?
Yeah, that was one of the better things about Unity for sure, is that since I was doing patron props, the patrons would get to choose what I have to make, which would be fun because I get to choose what I would like to work on first. But it was also a great challenge building experience because I was able to do things I would never do beforehand. Like, for example, one time I'll be asked to make like a battleship like model, like prop for their office desk, or then I'll be able to have to make flowers for like in a vase, and then I'll have to make like a plush doll. It broadened my expansions for different types of modeling for sure.
Back then, no, I had a little experience in Unreal. The very basics, and Unity, I didn't have much. I kind of dislike Unity to this day. It's not my favorite engine. It's very limiting for an artist.
None. Absolutely none. I've never even touched an engine outside of Blitz 3D or Creation or Gamebryo. Not even Unreal. No, not GDOT or whatever that is.
No. I had no clue, honestly. I was also very fresh to C#. Obviously, I knew programming, and I had taken programming courses before, but the actual language was pretty much new to me, and a lot of concepts were new to me. In terms of programming and using a game engine, coming into the project, I kind of started out basically from zero.
Actually, like I said, when I was in college, Unity was the main engine we worked with. We worked a bit in Unreal as well, but my main thing was always Unity. I do a lot of modding for games too, and one of the games I mod the most is a VR game called Blade and Sorcery, like a sword fighting game, and that's Unity as well. So I do a lot of I know the basics of like scripting, so I use that for modding mostly.
Did you have to work with other people? And if so, what was that like?
No, I was working mostly by myself on my own things. Just getting sometimes some little feedback from others, and that's it.
Depends a lot on the project, because SCP Unity, for the most part I worked by myself, but in a couple cases I did like collaborative efforts. Like I didn't do many rooms for the game, but I did a few. And usually what I would do is I would model like the entire room, like UV it, and then I would send it over to Shadow Scale, because at the time he was light years ahead of me in terms of texturing. So like, hey, you take this, you texture it, because he had more experience texturing environments as well. So that was very collaborative.
I was actually never given engine access to Unity, believe it or not. All of my work would be passed through Aerie, and he would implement it. So I would literally just give Aerie the models, and, I guess I worked with Zoner a little bit because he set up this patron database that I had to, he made this coding patron database so that, like, it was a separate website from Patreon where it would just handle prop requests and stuff. But other than that, yeah, I would go on this website that Zoner made, see what's in order of what props I need to make, choose one, work on it. Once I finish it, give it to Aerie. And once he does like an office build where he builds offices and stuff, I'm like, yeah, this goes to this person's office, this goes to this person's office, etc.
What was the hardest task for you to accomplish during your time in the studio?
I would say that was the new 106 model, the one that they had in the game when the 1.7 launched. The one with the long trench coats and stuff. That one took me, I want to say, like maybe 150 to 200 work hours, because I kept redoing it. Every time I tried to tackle it again, I noticed a lot of things I wanted to change about it. So I kept going back. So it took a very long time. It must have taken me, like, I don't know, 2 months, 200 hours or something.
From a time standpoint, the quest system for 0.8, that took me 9 months. I would never want to do that again. But for things that I actually struggled with understanding, probably the item system that I was helping Zoner write in the early days.
There was 2 in particular that were very challenging. The one that I remember the most was the battleship, because that's like when I was first hired. And that was like a really complicated model for how new I was to modeling in general. I was only about 4 months into modeling at that point. So that was a pretty difficult one. And then the next one was a bit later down the line. I want to say in September, someone commissioned a Oni mask. And I've never done faces before. I had to get a whole new program called ZBrush, because I'm like, I cannot do this efficiently in Blender. So I had to learn a whole new program just for that one model. So that one was a difficult one too.
Well, my main task was making this whole warehouse area, so I guess that it was like a big task that I had to break down to little ones. I haven't finished it, so...
How do you feel about the game being left at version 0.7.9?
I'm sad because it's... I mean, I wouldn't say that it's bad. 0.7 is... It's really good that 0.7 came out because it was such a huge thing and it really changed a lot about the game. And so it's definitely, in my opinion, at least a decent experience. It just personally kind of... It's unfortunate because there were things that we wanted to do that now are never going to happen, and there are things that got started or even finished that are never going to see the light of day.
It's disappointing because a lot of the stuff I worked on was supposed to come later, like 049. I made a model for that. It never saw the light of day. 3199 as well. A lot of models that I made never got seen, and that's really disappointing to me. I kind of wish they would at least been used in something, and that's why I made them open source so anyone can use them if they want for SCP projects.
From a hindsight perspective of the feeling I had up to that point when that project was being canceled, I was actually happy that it was getting canceled, just because I wasn't exactly happy with the way things were going. From a standpoint of, I guess, monetary compensation, disappointed because we weren't able to keep the Patreon and just move that over to something else. Specifically, what I wanted to happen was I would want Zoner and Jallo to be the ones to step down, then have everyone take over the project, and then continue up to a certain point and then translate to a new project. I'm disappointed that that didn't happen.
I wish that we could have done the last update, or maybe one more afterwards, just to have a finish point. It's really sad that the game doesn't have a finish point.
It was sad to see it close down. I was hoping it would go on Steam and maybe we could earn some money from sales and move to something bigger. Maybe even open a proper studio.
What aspects of the game, if any, did you have influence over?
Mostly graphics. I also did a lot of the game design documentation. We used to have like a dev wiki that I and Zorner and Shadowscale set up. It was basically a website where all the documentation of the game was there. Like, for example, if we have 173 and we want to make changes to how 173 behaves, we would write it on the document and then plan how to implement it in the game. I did a lot of the documentation. That's mostly it. Like I said, design documentation. I helped design some of the quote unquote quests, like the Here Be Dragons one, 1762, I think, and I made a lot of the models.
Pretty much modeling wise and texturing wise, decisions I made was pretty well accepted, and I didn't have a lot of iterations on stuff.
Pre-version 0.7, yes. Yes, I did. By the end of the game, none. Absolutely none.
Did you do much work outside of your main role in the studio?
I helped with the design documentation. At some point, way back in the day, like 2019 or something, I helped manage the social media a bit, but that's about it.
So I actually had my hands in a lot of fields. In fact, my title actually changed quite a lot. So I got onboarded wanting to be a programmer, but then got stuck doing UI design. You know that the monitor that's in most of the monitors, it's the brown one with the tabs on the left with like email and stuff. Yeah, that's my first thing I did for the project. That was literally the first thing I made.
Did I do anything except outside of modeling? No, not really. I was just making models and textures, and that's pretty much it.
Were there any plans to restart development after it officially dissolved?
We can't.
We knew that was pretty much impossible.
That's a big one, because here's the thing. Before Unity got shut down, Zorner established he actually went to, like, I don't know where you go in the US to do this type of stuff, but he went there and he founded a company called Aerie LLC, and he transferred all, he like went to a lawyer and transferred all the ownership of like the source code, a lot of concepts in SCP Unity, and he kind of trademarked that into Aerie LLC. At the time, the devs were told that this was to protect us, from people trying to steal our ideas, trying to steal our code, whatever. But then when the game shut down, he didn't say it outright, but he kind of implied that if we tried to continue the game, he could sue us, that he owned the entirety of the game. So it's kind of in this legal position where technically, yeah, we some of us, I don't, but some others have the source code saved on their machines or HDD somewhere. So they could technically restart the game if they wanted, but they always have the risk of getting sued or taken to court or something by Zorner. So is it possible? Yeah, but is it a smart idea? I don't think so.
The call to cancel it came down from Zorner, and it was announced to us via a Discord call in the Unity server. It was everyone but 2 people was a part of that call. So it was Festive, Corvus, me, Kanf, Pixelpuffin, and Punky. They were the ones who were not a part of this call. So it was pretty much everyone except those 2. Then the news came down like hard, like, yeah, this is where we're stopping. And in that call, I created the Aethon server. I then invited every member of the call, and then within 5 minutes, every member joined back. This was within minutes. And then when that call with Zorner ended, we started our own call in the Aethon server, and we started brainstorming, okay, what are we going to do? None of those plans that we were talking about involved continuing SCP Unity, because in that call, it was pretty much a hard, yeah, you are not to continue development of SCP Unity. You are not even to use any ideas from SCP Unity. There was undertones of action should we not obey his decision.
Could you tell us a highlight of your time there?
My highlights were always watching people play the game. Not just the big YouTubers like Markiplier. I would always like go to YouTube and search, for example, for SCP Unity 1.7 and sort by newest and just kind of go through the list and watch people play just to see their reactions. That was always the highlight for me.
The highlights are definitely when I finished a prop for a Patreon. When I would make a prop for a Patreon, right, and I would finish one, and I would show it off in like the patron chat, right? Like, here you go, here's your prop. It'll be put in your office, and maybe I'll even have a screenshot of it already placed down if Aerie was on it quick enough. And the reactions were always really nice. I don't think I had a single negative reaction of people like, oh, I don't like that. All of them were super positive, like, yes, oh my god, that's amazing. That was probably the highlights of me working.
A lot of things are like seeing positive responses from people. That was always very nice. When we had done something in an update, or if I had shown something in a screenshots channel or something like that. and people just responding positively and saying, "Oh, this is great. This is really nice. This is really elevating this." I doubt myself a lot, and so every time there was positive feedback like that and people got excited, it also got me excited, and I think it got everyone on the team excited. When people were excited, everyone on the team was also excited. And so whenever that was the case, usually around updates or things like that, that was always a very nice time.
Pretty much everything pre 0.7. Well, pre 0.7 releasing, I should say.
There were not many special moments. I mean, I got some praise from people on the server, from everyone. That was very nice, but there were not like big moments that I specifically remember.
How about a Lowlight?
Everything after 0.7's release.
Trying to convince Giallo to my vision of lightning, but that was very like small thing, I think. It was just, my opinion on how lightning could be more interesting in the game, and they didn't have to agree or anything. So I was pretty much just sitting there and making my stuff.
The bullying there was a lot of bullying, not even towards that what I said, but just towards some of the devs. There was bullying. That was not okay. Like there's none of that now in Aethon. Everyone we talk to each other almost every day. That never happened in Unity. We'd have a meeting maybe once or twice a month, and maybe me and Aerie or me or Corvus or something would talk to each other and have like a game night or something, but that's it. Maybe once or twice a month. We do it every other day. Like we have like D&D sessions every week now that we do together. We have just general game nights. It's art sharing, work together. It's great.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. In the last year before the project got shut down, things got really weird there. Like I think the success of the game, the stress of having to deal with like such a big audience all of a sudden kind of changed how things worked. A lot of tension in there. Like Zorner felt like the project was kind of getting out of his control. Pretty much said that one time. So he started getting really paranoid, not just with me, but with other people. Like I told you guys about Shadowscale. He was pretty much the first one to get fired after the project got really big. And the reason was basically Zorner felt like he was having too much control over the project. Here's the thing though. Shadowscale, he was basically the art director for the project without being formally declared as such. But when he left, the game had no art direction, so Zorner is starting to kind of want to change everything about it visually. At one point he actually asked me if I would be willing to remake everything the Shadowscale had made up until that point, and that was like 2 years of work. So I was like, no, I think that's crazy, man. That's not gonna work. So after Shadowscale left, well, I should say got fired, I ended up taking this post of being like the art director. I didn't want it, but who else is gonna argue the artistic side of things with Zorner? And well, that didn't turn out very well for me. Ended up getting the same treatment and fired and stuff. So yeah, I'd say that's the low light for me, when the project started getting really strange and paranoid and dark.
A low light being fired. Well, practically everyone was fired when we were told it's getting cancelled. Okay, I have two answers for this, but this is one of my personal pet peeves and one of my absolute lowlights. The Sky Room had a siren in it. I was in love, and this was before SCP Unity even. There's this wonderful siren that goes... It's a beautiful siren sound, a beautifully haunting siren sound that I really enjoyed. Here's some tech talk. The siren in question is a federal signal modulator, and this particular siren, this particular whale type, as it's called, is alternate whale, because it's wailing but alternating between pitches, and it's used across the United States in various situations to signify various different things. Most famously, it's used in Chicago, and that's another pet peeve of mine, because there's a video out there that says creepy broken Chicago siren, and it's the sound of this da 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 da, which is not broken. That's how it's intended to sound. You are an idiot for thinking that it's broken. It's not. Shut up. That's I'm so mad. Da 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 da. Well, I'll get to it. So I put it in the game because I thought it was really unique. It was a really unique sound rather than just a normal, boring old siren. This was in the game. This was in the project files for FMod since version 0.65. Months before 0.7 came out. Many months, probably half a year, maybe even a year. This siren sound was in there. So we released 0.7. At the time, Siren Head is huge. People start posting on Instagram comments and in YouTube comments saying, is that Siren Head? Because apparently this sound is also associated with Siren Head because of one video that shows a Fallout 4 mod which uses the same siren sound for Siren Head. This is kind of where I'm pulling this back because there were arguments in like Instagram comments saying, is this Siren Head? And then someone said, no, this is not Siren Head. This is the broken Chicago siren, which is also wrong because the Chicago siren isn't broken. It's supposed to sound like this. And it was all just complete bullshit. And I was like really annoyed by it. But I wanted to keep it in the game because it's like, it's going to pass. This whole shit is going to pass and people are just going to think it's a siren. Who gives a shit? And then the low light for me was when I was approached by project manager and his girlfriend, project manager and community manager, I should say. And they said, we need to replace the siren because people are before Markiplier plays the game. And this was before the Markiplier video came out. We have to replace the siren before Markiplier plays it. Why would we change it? And eventually it's like, who cares that people think it's Siren Head, really? And I think the response from the community manager was, I care because I get a lot of questions about it that I have to answer. And I'm fed up with the questions. So I was forced to replace the siren sound. And I was legitimately upset. And I still am upset to this day that I was made to do that. Because the new siren is not nearly as... It's decent, but it's not got the same character. Yeah.
So, what would you have wanted 0.8 to be, if not the lighting overhaul?
There were plans to release a warehouse expansion with that, I think. The stuff I was making was about to released in 0.8, if I remember correctly.
The lighting overhaul was a very minor thing, literally to boost Shallo's ego. So that was the smallest thing about that update, in my opinion. I was more interested in the observatory part, but we never got to, which would have been the 049 introduction. And it would have been a room where there's a big window and you outsee because your site 48, which was the site it was based on, is in Alaska. It would have been a really nice view of these mountain area with these pine trees and stuff. It would have been a really cool area. That never got worked on, but that's what I was excited to see being worked on. But yeah, that's what I would have liked to see, because that's where 0.8 would have ended for then.
I would say it would have just been the warehouse, the gun, maybe some part of 049 comes in, and that would be it. I would say it would probably even be better if we replaced the warehouse and 939 with the 049 section, because that would have given us a very good point to end as a demo, and put that on something like Kickstarter and maybe get actual funding to turn it into an actual game, or that would have also put it at a good point to drop if we decided to do something else.
0.8, my priorities for it would be something that I'd been pushing for a very long time, which was a system to dynamically place collectibles in the world. For example, in the current state of Unity, you had those little medkit dispensers, for example. I wanted a system that would randomize location of loot through the facility to kind of give you a reason to explore, because right now, if you found a medkit in a specific type of room, every time you find that specific type of room, it's going to have medkits in it again. So for me, 0.8 would have been that, among other things, but that would have been my priority. There's another thing that we were working on that kept getting pushed back, and that was the 1499, I believe, the gas mask. 1499, it kept getting pushed back. We were supposed to do a big overhaul. A lot of work went into that, actually, that never saw the light of day. We had a whole open road area designed for it, in engine. It just never got released. And so for me, if 0.9 was just that, that, and like I said, the loot system. I forget what we called it internally. It was like the lootables, I believe, lootable system. If that was it, that I'd been happy with that. I think it would add a lot of replay value to the game if things were randomized, so you have to look for things in different places. Play to the strengths of Unity with the random generation. That's just my opinion.
I mean, it wasn't going to be the lighting update. It was going to be really a bit of a story progression update, as well as the warehouse was going to be added with 939 making a return. There was going to be another area that was going to be added that teased SCP-049 and also introduced the concept of the facility AI a bit more. But yeah, there was going to be a lot of those things. And then, like I said, the quest system was going to be a thing that was basically done. The dialogue system, I worked my ass off to make that work. It had huge subtitling and everything. Everything was in there and it was really nice. We could have dialogue with more voice acting in the game. That's something we really wanted, especially with 939. There was going to be a lot of voices. We had contacted voice actors and had them record a couple of lines that were going to be in the game. And then obviously I wanted to do, like I said, a huge ambience rework, because the ambience I felt in 0.7 is just kind of bad. It's passable, but it's not great at all. So I was gonna make it a lot more dynamic. I wanted to write a whole music system, because the music, something that bugged me about the way that I was doing music is that I had gotten into SCP Unity because I was tired of just having a loop in one area that just looped, and then you went to another area and it was another loop. Certain things that I was doing, I just started doing in secret, and either did not reveal or only revealed that I was doing something when I had something tangible to show, where I was like, hey, I have something that already kind of works. Because at that point it was harder to reject it, because it's like, oh well, if it already kind of works, might as well add it. And so yeah, just a lot of those things. I think the whole occlusion thing, the whole music thing. I'm not sure about the dialogue system. I don't think the dialogue system was secret. Some of the ambience things, just a lot of those stuff, I just kind of kept secret to myself, because I didn't want it to get shot down right away, because it was just stuff that I was excited to do, and was like, I feel like this should be in the game. This would really make things better.